Welcome to episode 108.
Listening.
Whew. Join us as we talk about the ways in which we don't listen well.
And the ways that we can listen and really, really connect.
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 108.
Listening.
Listening.
I hear you.
I hear you too. Yay. So, I think it's kind of in the title what we're going to talk about, but
I heard you say listening.
because you were practicing. Good for you. Good for you. But before we start listening, shall we talk a little bit about what's been happening since last we recorded?
I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Go for it.
I'm
it.
revving to go.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. I am so excited. I got to see Brene Brown live for the very first time. But before I even start, I would just like to give you a shout out and say thank you so much for the tickets.
Oh, you're very, 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 very welcome.
You made that happen.
Yes, I'm so glad.
You gifted me with that experience, and it was wonderful.
Yay, I'm so glad. I'm so happy.
So I went, and I got there early, as you suggested. And so I was like maybe the fifth row from the front.
Sweet.
In the center. So at times, I would say she was like 3 or 4 yards from me. Not that I was trying to get close to her, but I was absolutely trying to get close to her.
Of course.
And it was just wonderful. And I imagine that it may have felt, I wonder if it may have felt like some people who really love their church. I don't know, because I've never loved a church. But imagining that's what it felt like. Just listening to her speak, it spoke directly to my soul. She was wise. She said things. I was taking notes. I brought my journal, so I opened up my journal and I was taking notes from her. She had like a presentation and she talked about it, and so I was taking notes from the presentation and I was writing down things that she said. So
yeah.
I cried, I laughed, I learned, I loved.
Yay! I'm so happy. Well, we've talked about her on a number of occasions. And I think that, we've started talking through, remember some of her points?
Yeah.
That maybe it's time for us to talk about another point soon,
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Because we have, I don't know if we'll ever plumb the depths, right? If we'll ever totally deal with everything that she said. But there's a couple of, the pillars of her philosophy that I think resonates so much for me and often provides good conversation.
I agree. Can I tell you the part where I just absolutely lost my mind?
Yes, please do.
She was playing, so she's like really into sports, which is not something that her and I share, but I can appreciate. And so she was playing a lot of sports clips and using it as a direct comparison to leadership. And then she pulls up a slide and it is a scene from Ted Lasso, and I lost it. I absolutely lost my shit.
Because that resonates with another love.
Yeah, that's like two of the things I love the most in the world. Ted Lasso and Brene Brown. And it's happening at the same time, live, right in front of me. I could not. I was just a puddle of tears and smiles.
Yay.
So.
Yay, good. Could you tell how other people were responding to her at all? Or I know you were probably in your own thing.
I was so lost in my own. Now, people were clapping and cheering and hooting and hollering. And people were very much communicating with her.
Okay.
In fact, she even asked, so the staff at the venue where this was very responsive to her. A couple of times she like asked them for things like raise the lighting so I can see the audience more. And they were like on it. So everyone was very much paying attention. But she like wanted to be able to see the audience members, and because originally it was very dark, you know, and there was a spotlight on her, and she asked for the spotlight to be dropped and the lights to be brought up, which I think is cool.
Very cool.
But from that, I would say that everyone was very into it.
Oh, good. Like, I think that kind of also maybe reinforces that kind of church-like atmosphere.
Mm-hmm,
yeah, you know, because she can see you and you can see her, and got the energy.
That's
so exciting! I'm sorry.
It was so great.
Yeah.
I do wish we could have been together.
So here's the thing. I don't think I dropped the ball. Well, I did drop the ball in that when usually, like, I think the last time this happened where we knew the tickets were going to be scarce, the way they offer them to, at my institution, they offer them to faculty and staff first, then to alumni, and then to the general public. So, you know, and I think the last time was when we had Venus Williams there. And so, like, that morning, I had it in my calendar to go at 8 a.m. and get the tickets. And this time, I had it in my calendar. I had it as a reminder, but it didn't pop up immediately. And by the time I went, the tickets were all gone. So I posted, and one colleague of mine emailed me right back and said, I have a spare ticket. And I had one ticket. And I thought, okay, who would, like, lose their fucking mind?
I'm raising my hand.
You're raising your hand, and so that's why I said the ticket's for you. And then later I made other plans, etc., because I knew I wouldn't be able to go. And I'd forgotten that when this happens, there's usually someone, you know, like 2 or 3 hours before that day that says, you know, realizes we can't go, or this person's sick. Would anyone want my ticket? And I should have just held out for that, because then I could have been there with you,
which would have been great.
Which would have been great, but that's okay.
That's okay.
I have such joy knowing that you went, and knowing how much you resonate with her and how much you adore her. So
yes, and I hope I reflect that joy back to you in gratitude, because I sat there and in a very, like, modern way, I tagged you on my story.
Yes, you did.
So,
which of course I missed at the time.
It's okay. And I'm going to post my story. I'm going to post the stories to Patreon so that people can see it.
Oh, yay! Good.
And you were just very with me.
Okay, so. I'm so glad. I thought about. Well, I was real. I think I put in at least an email and a text. You want to get there early.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me multiple emails telling me that I should get there early and all. I felt very facilitated. It was very nice. I felt very priestess too.
Good, because I know how crazy it gets, and I know that you really want it to have as rich an experience as possible, and you can see. I mean, it's not a big hall. You can see her from wherever you are in the hall. However, when you're down front and as front and center as you could be, I don't think it's the experience is much different.
It was great. I could see her. I could see her.
Yeah.
So.
Yay.
Thank you. You know, I think seeing is also a part of listening, and so I'm ready to see you and your check-in.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I just wanted to kind of talk about the difference between seeing my doctor and seeing the PA. I have a doctor who was recommended to me by a dear friend, because I'm kind of woo. I'm not very. I can do traditional med. I understand that. For acute problems, for, etc., tradition, you can't beat allopathic medicine. However, I prefer to do lifestyle changes, etc., to the extent that it's possible. And a lot of doctors, many of the doctors that I've dealt with have not appreciated that approach.
Yes.
And so I found this doctor. This person recommended this doctor. And one of the things, I went to see her, so it would have been 23, and I went to see her and did blood work and all this kind of stuff. And I remember one of the things that it said was that my A1C was elevated, and that my doctor would contact me. Never contact me. Anyway, to make a long story less long, when I saw her a year later, I said something about, how I was feeling and what I was thinking about that. And, I get it. Doctors feel that their patients are telling them what they should be doing, telling them their job. But, she made the comment about Dr. Google, doesn't have the medical training I have. I know medical training, and I know how much training they get in nutrition. 1 class. One class. And if it's close, well, let me let it go. Anyway, so one class. So, we had talked about a couple of things, and she said, well, I just know that you're not going to be compliant because, the last time I saw you was a year ago, and you haven't talked, I haven't had any contact with you since then. I relaxed. I took a couple of deep breaths because I wanted to say, bitch.
Yeah, how did that land with you?
It did not land well because I saw that I immediately started changing, like I upped my walking. I watched my food a lot more, et cetera, et cetera.
I just want to mirror back. You've talked about this.
Yeah.
You've actively talked about the changes and the impact that you've had.
Oh, yeah. And since then, so that was 23. I had blood work done in 24. It dropped a few points. I just had blood work done last week, and it dropped a couple more points, right? So I just want to say that.
I'm feeling activated right now.
Thank you.
So
because I saw those results, and I did something about it. My doctor, who was supposed to contact me, saw those results. Maybe not. I don't know, because she did not contact me. Anyway, so that was that time. And then I had some health problems, and I ended up going back a few months later and saw the PA, who I promptly fell in love with. So first, she sat down. First, she listened. She listened to me as opposed to, I'll come back to the doctor in a second, but she listened. She went back and looked at my record, and she said, I noticed that your A1C is high. Let me go back and look at your other record, your last time you had this work done. And she looked and she saw that there was no follow-up. And she said, and she actually said this, I think legally they're not supposed to, but she said, I am sorry that this is the first you're hearing from our office about this. That, I thought, we've talked about accountability, right? Taking, just saying, I fucked up. What can we do now? And so anyway, so I talked with her and I said, I'd prefer to try to do this with lifestyle because my doctor was saying, well, if this does not come down, so I saw the doctor in, let's say, October, and then I saw the PA in December. And when I saw the doctor, she said, well, if your A1C does not come down, then we'll put you on metformin. And I said, I'd really prefer to do, lifestyle. And she put a puss on and she said, well, I know you're not going to be compliant. So, you should just do the medication, which means, and then she said, unless you won't, she didn't say unless you won't be compliant with the medication, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so when I talked with I had a similar conversation with the PA, and she said, it looks like it's working for you. She said, we need to get it down lower. And how do you feel about that? And I said, I really want to try to do this because for me, stuff like metformin will decrease the blood glucose level in my blood, but it doesn't actually address the reason why there's glucose in my blood. Whereas lifestyle changes actually changes the way my body reacts to insulin. It reacts to the blood glucose by creating insulin, et cetera, and I can make my insulin receptors stronger and more absorbent and all of that kind of stuff, right? Anyway, so she acknowledged, she listened to me. She acknowledged me. I felt seen. I felt heard. And then I just saw her again Wednesday, this past couple of days ago, and it's dropped again. And she acknowledged that, and she said, just keep doing what you're doing. She gave me some suggestions for, maybe ramping it up a little bit, and it's just the experience of being, and this is so appropriate for this. For this episode, just the experience of being seen and acknowledged as a human being with some sort of investment in my health, and even while I'm not necessarily doing everything that they would do, recognizing what I am doing. So there we have it. I would because of confidentiality, I don't want to give her an actual shout out, but. I just think she's amazing. And I will, when I go to the doctor's office now, I will only see her.
Yeah.
So
when I saw this on our outline of what you were going to talk about, I did not make the connection to listening.
I didn't either till just now.
And as you were speaking, it made so much sense.
I didn't do this deliberately. I just saw her a couple of days ago. But it just shows how when this topic is in the air, it really resonates. And yeah. So... An example of listening.
Would you be open to us adding medicine, like doctors and medicine to our list of episodes.
Oh, sure. Potential episodes?
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I think us talking about traditional medicine and other types of medicine would be interesting. And I know you have opinions. I have opinions, but I think you have you have opinions.
I have opinions.
I have opinions.
I'm just reading this book right now called the Herbal Dog, and it's there. It's really, it's like, instead of, it could be just the Herbal Kimberlyn. Anyway, so let's we'll add that to our list.
Okay.
So it's so funny. One of the things we've mentioned this a number of times is that I get newsletters from different podcast groups, and one of the things they talk about is, what do you do when you start running out of topics? We will never know. Nope. We will never, unless we live to be 150, we will never know, because every time we do an episode, it engenders two more.
For sure. So maybe we could move into talking about listening.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting that you actually requested this episode.
Yeah. So, some of the reasoning behind this is that our circle it's one of our agreements. And it's one that it seems that a lot of people, if we might be slipshod about some things, and sometimes we're slipshod about this too as well. To be fair, but I think that it is one of the strengths of our circle is that it's an agreement, even if we don't. It's an agreement that we're going to prioritize it, and for a number of different reasons that are also a part of the fundamental aspect of our circle, and then it just highlighted how often it's not practiced anywhere else other than our circle.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I can't remember. I think I had. I know why. This is a couple of weeks ago. I taught a class, and I gave some directions, and there was a student who raised her hand about halfway through my directions, and I always hold up a finger so they know I've seen you, and you'll be next. Let me just finish. And so they know that, and then they put their hand down often. And sometimes not. I don't get why not, but whatever. And then when I finished the directions, she literally asked the exact same questions with almost the exact same words as the original question that I was in the process of answering when she raised her hand.
Wow.
Was
there acknowledgement from the class that
they all kind of looked at her like,
yeah, okay. I find it validating. I don't know if I should seek validation like that, but sometimes even as a teacher, I find it validating when other students are like,
are you kidding?
What?
I know. I stopped for a moment because I thought it was me. I'm getting older. I'm getting closer to retirement.
And as a witch, sometimes I'm like, did I say that in another reality?
Exactly,
and then
yes.
now I'm on this plane of existence.
Exactly.
Like I crossed the veil for a moment.
Yeah. Was it in my head, but it didn't come out my mouth?
Yeah.
But when they all kind of looked at her like, and I said, well, okay. So anyway, so that's what brought it to mind when this, when we decided to do this episode. Yeah, and I just thought, when that happened to me, I just remember, I think I went back to my office and I was just kind of musing on the topic of listening. And I thought, okay, we have our circle and we know how we think about listening. How do because maybe, are we that much of an anomaly? And so I just typed in listening. I think that might have just been what I Googled listening. I went to the Holy Sacred Google.
Search engine.
Yes, and just type in listening, and you get the A1, not A1, the AI.
Yeah,
I'm on A1C.
Right, that's fine.
You get the AI, and then you get like quotes and things like that. And I just kind of like dived in that for just about 15-20 minutes until that student came to. Never mind. Let me just let it go. Actually, let me just say that until that student came to my office hours and apologized for that. And then kind of asked the same question again.
Oh.
And so we're going to get to why we don't listen.
Yes.
Because I'm as guilty of it as anyone else. So, but I was just, wow. Wow.
shout out that they apologized.
No, she did.
That's a step in the in their story direction.
I love my students, and my students, we're a diverse group of people, but no, I don't think any of them are malicious or they're just there like to pick their noses or whatever. They're there to learn to varying degrees. But yeah. So yeah, she did come in, but wow,
yeah, still a swing and a miss. It sounds like. But an earnest swing and a miss?
An earnest swing and a miss, yeah. She was putting her all behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do some sports analogies, can't you? So anyway, may I just share just a few? As I did this, I was like, oh wow, and I started typing this stuff down, and maybe that's when I might have texted you and said, let's do this.
You did text me, and I don't think I've ever gotten a text from you with that oomph behind it about an episode. So I was like, yes.
Okay, so here's this is from Mark Twain. If we were supposed to talk more than we listen, we would have 2 tongues and 1 ear. Which I thought was, it just, that idea of, how we should be prioritizing it. A couple more. And this is M. Scott Peck. You cannot truly listen to anyone and do anything else at the same time. That one really hit me because I've started now, when certain people call me, they'll say, shall we Zoom or phone? And I'll say phone because I kind of just like, kind of hang the phone off my ear and do other things because it's like, because I'm not listening. And so that was a moment of self-awareness. And we'll come back to that. And then this is Ed Cunningham. Friends are those rare people who ask how we are and then wait to hear the answer.
Yes.
And then finally, this is Doug Larson. Wisdom is the reward you get for a lifetime of listening when you'd have preferred to talk. I'm still, these were very educational, instructive for me. So just reading that kind of threw a little bit of the young lady in, just the experience in that class into relief for me. And just, it just caused me to think a little bit more. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So,
I think that I wish we listened more. As the royal we. I wish we listened more. I wish our culture was built.
Oh wait, the royal we is you.
I thought the royal we was everyone.
No, the royal we is I am the queen. We.
Oh, we meaning everyone?
No, we meaning I am royal, so therefore I am like more than you are.
Well, would you look at? Thank you for listening and hearing what I was saying, and then offering me that.
Yeah, the royal we is like I am more important than you. So
I am we.
I am the I am.
Oh,
we.
and see, I was thinking it was we as I.
No. So just be aware. So when people hear that, and they may not, because nowadays, I mean, how often do we listen to a king or a queen? Well, okay, let's not go there.
Okay.
Let's not go there.
I don't know if you can see the thing in my brain.
A real monarch, a monarch.
Actually, okay.
A monarch
yes.
who's there because they were supposed to be a monarch.
Yes, okay, moving. So, like the cultural we.
Okay.
I think I would like to see our culture built more around listening being important. Yeah. And I do want to validate what you said, though. I feel like spoiled is not the right word because I actually feel like it's more authentic and it's where I want to be. And our culture and the culture of our circle are 2 different things. And I appreciate, although imperfect, that I have had modeled for me this concept of deep listening and then sharing time. Because I think sharing time is another part of deep listening.
May I share an insight I had from our conversations, from our very first couple of episodes, where you've modeled that for me? This is going to sound a little obscure, but I just in editing, obviously I'm listening to us, and and I recognize the difference between sitting and listening to edit, where I'm really, really listening, as opposed to having a conversation, and some conversational tics that I have that are not helpful. And so one of the things I do is which at the time when I'm doing it, if I'm even thinking about it, I'm kind of agreeing with you. But what I'm actually doing is taking the space away from your conversation, taking sound away from your conversation and injecting myself into it.
That's interesting.
And I recognize that because when I was talking, there was silence. But when you were talking, I was saying, Isn't that amazing?
I don't know. Is there research to back this up?
I don't know. And maybe there's another psychological reason for it. Mm-hmm. But what I
just did it.
Yes, you did. But we were going back and forth.
Okay.
I was not talking and sharing a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And so, and I don't think I was trying to do it to take space away from you. But what I was, again, intention, impact. Mm-hmm. But what I was doing was taking space. I was not taking space, but I was injecting you needed my agreement. Which you didn't, because you were sharing. When one shares, I would imagine one is just trying to get their thoughts out there, not necessarily. And if you wanted my agreement, you'd say, "So what's your thoughts?" Right? But at that point of the conversation, you were sharing your thoughts, and I was injecting myself in there, like you needed to know that I was. I mean, you knew I was listening because I'm staring in your. So you see what I'm saying? It's just a conversational tick. It's the way some people say or and I began to recognize how often I did that. And so just hearing the silence when I was talking was so illuminating for me, because I didn't realize how much I did that all the time. And you made me aware of that. So I wanted to, and I don't think I ever said anything, because I think I was so embarrassed, shame, guilt.
Yeah,
I was so embarrassed about it that I don't think I ever said anything. But that has been a way in which I think I can allow people to talk and know that I'm hearing them without me constantly telling them I'm hearing them.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate the intent behind it. I'm not sure if I agree with it, but it is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this is normal or what, mm-hmm. and I don't even know what normal is. But my first thought is there research on this? Can we
where's the data?
And I don't know if that's I don't know what that means about me. I don't know. I have no idea.
And this may not have anything to do with anybody else. It's just something that you showed me, a part of me that I just needed to be curious about.
Okay, I like that. Mm-hmm. That vibes.
Okay, there you go.
Because that's taking judgment.
Yeah,
to me, that feels like a taking judgment.
That makes thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just my brain just got shaken up. What an interesting thing to think about, though, in that sometimes it's independent from how it lands, but that it offers us insight into my own listening.
Right. And so what I'd love to do is talk a little bit about the fact that listening is a skill that we are not taught, and maybe talk a little bit about how we don't listen.
Maybe our audience would like to listen to us talk about.
You know what? You're you're a captive. You're not a captive audience. You're probably washing your dishes,
right? Driving, yeah, for sure.
Which is fine. That's that we're here to provide whatever you wish to listen to.
That's right.
You are on your own authority.
That's right.
So there we go.
Yeah.
But having said that, it seems to me when I ask someone, or when I'm in conversation with someone, why are we talking? Why are we using words? Are we trying to communicate? Are we just hanging out and just keep filling in silence? Are we just saying, "Hey girl, hey"? So I think that that's a part of it as well. But let's talk a little bit about listening about listening as a skill. So one of the things that I talk about this a lot with my students, because I teach music, and I want people to delve into the analysis, not necessarily like the chords and stuff, but why music has the effect it does. And so I really want to structure them to listen. So sometimes we'll watch a video or whatever, and I have to keep telling them to sometimes close your eyes, because we're hardwired. Vision is our first sense of self-protection and survival. Like, we can see the saber-toothed tiger or the woolly mammoth. Well, maybe not the woolly mammoth, because they're pretty heavy, but we can see them before we often hear them, mm-hmm. right? And so we're just hardwired to privilege sight. And listening tends to be more of a survival skill than an actual need. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sometimes when I listen to people, I unfocus my eyes, and I might even not disassociate, but I might pull away visually, and I I think I do that because it helps me hear, but then I also worry that people think that I'm like,
like,
I just like moved my eyes away.
That you're, what's her name? Luna Lovegood on.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Like I worry that people think I'm not listening, but
that you're not in the conversation.
Especially whenever someone is sharing something more lengthy, like maybe they're telling a longer story or something that's really important. I'll kind of like, I physically lean into listening, but I like shut off my eyes.
And that's probably why.
And I've never understood why I do that. But I have been self-conscious about it.
Well, so maybe this is an opportunity for you to take the judgment out of that, because now you have self-awareness of that's a conversational tactic for you.
I think because my vision is distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes my vision can lead me to like not stay auditorially focused. I can stay visually focused.
It's so much easier.
But not auditorially focused.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah. That's why, we will always, unless we have vision problems, we'll always privilege our sight.
Mm-hmm.
So can I talk a little bit about?
Yeah.
So one of the things. So this information is from the Institute for Habits of Mind. So when I dove into that rabbit hole, I dove deep. So one of the things they talk about is active listening, and so the 5 steps to active listening are paying attention, showing that you're listening, providing feedback, deferring judgment, and responding appropriately. And I would suggest that those last 3 are dependent upon the conversation, depending on what the person sharing really wants from the conversation. I mean, can I just give an example?
Yes.
Sometimes with my ex and I, we'd start our conversation because we're both fix-its. I'm an Enneagram 2. I don't know what he is because we don't type others. I have some suspicions, but and I think and men are kind of conditioned by our culture to fix things, particularly with the women in their lives. And so we will start a conversation. We'll start something saying, "I'm just venting. I don't want So in that conversation, all I want is for you to listen. I don't want feedback. I don't want solutions. I just want you to just sit there and if you want, you can say, "Oh, honey."
Yeah.
Or "I'm here for you," or "What can I do?" or "Do you need anything else besides this?" That's all I need. So having said that, but that paying attention part is the hardest. I think we fall down on the first step as a culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Now look at the second one though, showing you're listening.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, so that could be saying,
right?
Or that could be looking at somebody.
That's what I'm saying.
But so here's the thing. I suspect, and because I've seen this in conversation with you, that you, like you say, you lean forward. I know you're listening.
Okay.
So I don't think, as I say, I get a real, I see you physically engaged, which in part of your physicality are your ears, right?
Yes.
So I have rarely felt. I think one time on a plane, I was talking to you, and I looked over, and you were asleep.
Wait, what? I don't remember that. Wait, I was asleep.
It was one of our, trips back when we were going back and forth to Portland, and you like to curl up against the window.
I do.
And you had said something, and then I think I went on a lengthy monologue. During which you probably was like, I'm going. But I wasn't looking for visual cues. But except for that, I've rarely gotten a sense that you're not listening, that you're not paying attention.
Sorry about that.
Tell me. It's I mean, you were curled up to sleep, and I kept talking. It's like, so anyway, do you want to, so can we maybe delve into a little bit about why should we care?
Yes. And I would like to share a little bit from me personally. I have gotten feedback from really good friends, people that I really trust, that, and I believe them, my standards for listening are very high. I love the look on your face.
Yes, yeah, and?
You're like the human embodiment of a Z-snap right now.
Yes. Exactly.
My standards are very, very high. So high that people in general do not meet them. And the consequence of that is that sometimes I do not have the closeness with people that other people may be used to, because my threshold is higher. What I expect is higher.
Would you care to share a little bit about those expectations, maybe? I mean, to the extent that you feel comfortable?
Yes. So for me, I will not share unless a person is actively listening.
Girl! We've had this. We were having this conversation in one of our groups.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, because
yes.
I remember this sounds so familiar to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not here to preaching that I'm right or anything. I actually think that it can cause me to feel a divide. Oftentimes the other people on the other side still feel connected. But I feel a divide. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not saying I'm not coming from a place that what I do is correct. I'm coming from a place of just saying that this is how I live my life and this is a consequence of that. So my threshold for what I desire before I engage in a two-way meaningful conversation, I want active listening. I want the person to be invested. I want to feel like they care and they are invested in me. What ends up happening is I see people just want to dump or vomit, emotionally dump, or just open the floodgates of their thoughts and verbally process. I just feel like you're opening a floodgate and the water pours out. And I happen to be on the receiving end of that. And I think that they care and I think that they want connection. But for me, that's a lot. But then there's no reciprocation of that. Or it might go something like this.
I think I know where you're going.
How was ritual for you this week?
It was good.
It was good for me too. And I thought that I really liked the part where we drummed and the question, and I feel, and actually my stomach feels just turned when I did that to you. I'm so sorry. I love you so much.
but I have a couple of friends who I don't think so this is me trying to think well of self and others. I don't think that they were necessarily feeding the question, seeding me so that they could do that. But I think what they think they're doing is showing where we are similar.
Yes.
But to do that, okay. So let's jump to this because we might as well. One of that we're talking. We're moving towards the ways in which we don't listen, and some of these, and I'm guilty of some of these. And one of those is while someone is talking, instead of actively listening, we respond to, we hear the first couple of words out of their mouth and we start formulating our answer to that. So while you're still talking, I'm not listening to the words coming out of, sorry, don't mean to be pointing. So I'm not listening to the words coming out of your mouth. I'm listening to the words that I'm building in my head to respond to that. So I'm kind of hearing you, whatever can get through, while I am starting my conversation before you finished yours. And that's what I suspect. I think because I have a dear, I know someone who does this. I think that they think that they're really connecting with you and showing we're, simpatica. We're so alike. Yeah, I get you. I see you. But not really, because they haven't seen you because they haven't listened to you.
Well, I feel seen with the way you just summarized that. Yes. My sense is they think that they see me, but they haven't seen me because they hijacked my portion of my experience. So then what ends up happening is it's one-sided. The relationship closeness is one-sided. And what I have found is that's why
they feel close to you.
They feel close to me because they just shared, if we just use this example, they just shared that they really enjoyed ritual because of the drumming. And so then they're feeling like they're so seen and they got to express it and I listened. And I'm on the other side feeling
awash in their vomit.
Yes, lost in the sea of their experience and totally unseen. And sometimes used. Sometimes I feel used. Or I feel reduced to a sounding wall. So I can feel, but and then here's and I don't know if this is right or wrong or what. I have no idea. But then I'm at a choice point of, do I advocate for myself and say, hey, I'd really like to share what I experienced? Or do I say, this person is not in a place to really see me and it's really not worth my energy, and just be at peace with the dynamic, and then focus my energy on somebody who does care. For example, you. Like, I literally save a list of things that I want to tell you. Because I know that you're going to listen, and I know you're going to care, and I know you're really going to hear me. And so, like, I will stockpile a list of things.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Sometimes mentally, sometimes physically have a list.
Hang on, hold up.
so that I can talk to you. Mm-hmm. Because you hear me.
And feel seen.
Yeah.
And, yes.
Yeah, and I
can't add anything to that.
I don't like that this happens. This happens to me frequently, and there's one person in particular who I spend a lot of time with that does this, and I love this person, and I think this person is kind, and I just think that they don't have the skills, and I don't think they have the awareness, and it's also not my job to teach them.
May I respond to some of that, because I'm kind of going through
Please.
the same thing. So let me tell you my experience.
Please.
No, but I think it's still a part of that kind of that curiosity and wondering how can we take this relationship to the next stage? Because basically, when that happens to me, I feel as if my relationship's at a certain level with them, and how much. Like, how much more do I want to invest? Like, what's the ROI?
Seriously though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, can I put in the energy to help them to achieve that self-awareness? Do they want that self-awareness? Would I be imposing my needs? Because it sounds to me that that's a need for you, not a desire. You said desire, but I'm sensing so much a need for this to be a part of the relationship, because that's, I mean, how else? But we can have sex, we can touch each other, but so much of our relationships are a conversation, right? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, what I started to say was how my questions around that, because I have so many of those relationships, and I suspect it's because it's the Enneagram 2 in us. But anyway, I
do too.
We provide this service to others, hoping. Okay, we need some therapy.
I know. If anybody wants to go back and listen to the Enneagram 2 episode.
I'm kind of curling up into a fetal ball over here.
Oh, man.
Hoping and wishing and praying that we could get even a trickle of that back. Mm-hmm. And so how much do we want to keep pouring into that bucket?
Yes.
With all them holes in it.
Yes.
Which is another question, then we have other questions, and I think we've talked about this in terms of boundaries and in terms of, like, for me, as I'm moving into the next phase of my journey, who do I want there? Mm-hmm. Well, no, I know who I want there, but I don't know how having them there is actually helping me to get to the next phase of my journey. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so just because I love them and they're wonderful people and they kind and compassionate and they love me. Okay, we're okay. Let's get back to listening.
Okay, yes, and I want to validate though that so listening is tied to all of these other things. And what I'm hearing from both of us is that listening is the gateway to so much more than just, did you hear what I say? And I've never really considered that. I've never really thought through that. And so now this is making sense why it lands so deeply with me.
Yes. Something you said, we're seeing with our ears. Like, I really see you when I listen to you, when I actually hear how you're different from the image that I've created of you. And that's when I see you and not the image of you that I have.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay.
This really is connected, though, to our Enneagram 2 episode.
It's connected to a lot of our episodes, to our boundaries episodes.
Okay. So
okay, but let's go on.
Let's move. Let's refocus back on listening.
Okay. So, can I talk a little bit about why I don't listen as much as I used to? Why I feel as if I don't listen as well as I used to?
Yes.
I think it's just our society. So, for example, this is going to sound kind of funny. Even with television, so our world has gotten noisier, and so and this is Kimberlyn going out on her little woo-woo platform. I'm going to posit that there is kind of a cultural intention, whether it's like the Illuminati or cabal or whatever, an elitist cabal, to disconnect us from our souls, to disconnect us from our authentic selves. And so all of this noise is provided so that we can squirrel this, let's this television show, this, that's sports, this is my favorite sports team, that's not your favorite sports team, I hate you, that kind of stuff. So to keep me from actually sitting and being still, which is another episode, and realizing what I need to be my authentic self and to interact in a healthy way with my environment. So having said that, I've noticed that, movies are louder, the music is louder. And I think my hearing's going as I've gotten older. So I use closed captioning on when I watch a television show. Plus, I can say, "Hey Siri, back it up." Not Siri, whatever. I can't remember which one.
Sorry, I couldn't go back.
Oh no, that's perfect though. Siri is always listening.
Unlike us.
Please don't cut that out.
Oh my gosh! All right, yeah. Unlike humans,
yes.
But anyway, when I have a Fire Stick and I can hold it up and say rewind 15 seconds because what did they say? And I can keep rewinding, or I can, So I'm not used to really listening anymore. And I remember thinking, I was in the car and listening to NPR in some interview, and they da-da-da-da-da-da. What did they say? And then realizing I'm in a car listening to the radio, I can't rewind it. So I think that's part of it. I think, like with that student, we're just, we get into our heads, and somebody will, if they miss it, it'll be in the assignment sheet, or she'll say it again, or I can ask a question and she'll say it again. We've just gotten lazy. That's the word I'm looking for. I've gotten lazy. So I think that that's part of it.
I think that would be validated by the attention economy idea, and that videos on social media are getting shorter and shorter. Like content is getting shorter and shorter.
Really? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, TikTok isn't TikTok a limited amount of time or something?
Yes, originally it was much shorter, than they lengthened it. But there's data that shows like the most common link that people actually listen to before they swipe to the next. So, wow. But our attention is measurably getting shorter and shorter as a whole. Not the royal we, the actual we is getting shorter and shorter as a whole. And I know that I have some bad habits too. That one is that I'm a fast processor. My brain moves very quickly, and I can oftentimes react and predict and empathize so quickly that sometimes I move faster than the person who is on the other side of me. And that's not necessarily because I'm trying to think of what I'll say next. I just process very, very quickly. Now, the opposite side of that is that sometimes I don't process deeply. So it takes, if I'm going to do deep processing, it takes me a while, and I have to really work on that. So I'm not saying I'm superior. I'm just saying that's the way my brain works. So knowing that I'm a fast processor, and I actually partner with a deep processor, and I don't think that's an accident. Ugh. So knowing that I'm a fast processor, he is a deep processor, and knowing that I can steamroll him with my processing, and unless I'm mindful. And then another thing that I struggle with is that as a teacher, especially a classroom teacher of high school students, I developed, out of necessity, a habit of interrupting. Because if I did not interrupt, they would talk forever. Because they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's the way that they're like, their brains are not fully formed yet. They have no concept of like my lesson plan or that I have to get through certain things in a certain amount of time because it's going to be on the end of course assessment. Like,
Yes. So would you hazard an opinion on the fact that our culture is so fast moving that we have these assessments, regardless of where your students are, there is this kind of abstract point that someone somewhere said everyone has to be at?
yes.
There's that. There's also this kind of cultural conditioning that we should all kind of be the same, regardless of whether we're fast, slow, and I would suggest that maybe the the louder processors are privileged in today's society.
Yes.
So we talk about this, but I would suggest that it's not necessarily something that I individually developed, like my but it's just something that I'm looking around and I see what's rewarded, and so I go towards that, whether it's good for me or not.
Yes. Yes. And I think that in my musings for this episode, one of the things that I've noticed is none of these struggles that I have with really deeply listening come from a place of like, screw you, I don't want to hear you. It's all these other things that I maybe am unaware of or have a lack of awareness around that are impeding my ability to really offer that type of connection that I want. I am a very extroverted person. And
no, really?
And when we do ritual planning, I put in my ritual plans, my ritual planning plans to leave space.
You're also a planner.
I am. To leave space for introverts to think. Because if I say, what should we do for the grounding? And then 3 extroverts scream out different things. And then the 2 introverts haven't even had time or space to process and then voice what they want. I don't want to miss listening to them. Because
they were listening to the whole question as opposed to hearing the, what do we want? And then, yes.
So I think the roundabout way of what I'm saying is that part of me being a good listener is me understanding myself, the things that I'm bringing, and how that might impact the people on the other side. And then what do I really want? I want connection. I want deep listening. Then how do I do that? How do I actively shape my presence so that I can meet that person and really hear them?
Sidebar. Assuming that they want to be heard, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think yes. I acknowledge what you just said, and I totally agree with that sense of self-awareness. And I'm going to hazard that conversation is a two-way street.
Yes,
and because I might want this kind of deep connection where I'm sharing and you're listening intently, and then you share and I listen intently, and then we might have some back and forth on the ways in which we agree or disagree, because I can't assume that that's what other people want. And and then what do I do with that information? I'm coming to you. So this is a question I'm asking where I want an answer. It's not rhetorical. I mean, if you know, what do I do with that information?
Maybe we could explore that together. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I've had those experiences off the top of my head because I'm a fast processor. One time I was talking to somebody that I would like to be one of the people that I would like to be my top 10 closest people in my life. Mm-hmm. And this person told me, because they stopped responding to me. We were using a communication app, and they stopped responding to me. And then months later, the person shared that they didn't really want to do that with me anymore because it just got too deep. And that's not the word that person used, but that is what they said. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's true. I believe that it was too deep for them. Or that it wasn't or not too deep for them. I believe that wasn't what they were seeking.
From your conversation.
From our conversation. And then another time I was I was away for...
Can I ask for a moment to just process that?
Yes.
Wow.
It made me very sad.
Wow. And at least, maybe it was delayed, but at least you got that feedback. Because often we don't get that feedback, right? But yeah. Okay.
I had hazarded that I had guessed that was the case. And then when they shared that, it validated what I had guessed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much so please carry on.
Well, so then my thing is like, do I want to meet them where they are, or do I want to not meet them where they are? You know, like what's more important to me, connecting with this person where they are, or me getting my needs met with this person? Oh,
what's the not the point of your relationship, but on what will your relationship be based? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know, did you make a decision, or are you still kind of struggling with that?
I'm still struggling with that. And I'm trying to meet them where they are.
How does that feel for you?
Sad. I have a deep sadness. I have real deep sadness around it, because I want that depth, and that's just not available.
You thought, yeah.
So it's like a and there's also an empowerment in that. So I'm gonna go other places to meet that need. Like I said, like you, like I literally make a list of things that I want to talk to you about, because I know you will hear me.
Yeah. But may I comment?
Please.
I think that that's a powerful choice, though, that you, it sounded as if, at least in that moment in time, and you can change your mind tomorrow or now, that you chose to say, okay, I can't get this from this person. It sounded like you decided that you are going to continue the relationship with them at the stage that they are in. But that's a choice that, so again, even though maybe a certain need of yours is not being met, then maybe another need with that of connection with this person that you have, that you've actively moved towards, that you've chosen. Wow, that's also powerful, that you've made that choice, not kind of in what I feel sometimes for me is kind of fallen into it by default. You know what I mean? But by just like not actually making that decision.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of either whining and complaining to myself or to, you know what I mean? But you made that choice. I think that is so, thank you for modeling that for me. I think I need to do that myself with a number of relationships and then say, okay, that's what it's going to be. And so, what choices am I going to make now that I've made that choice?
And I wonder too, because like, it's not always about being equal. And at some point in time, energy and time are the only two things that are fixed for me. And so who I spend my time with, and therefore who I exchange energy with, is really important. Because someday I will die, and I will not have the opportunity to spend time with people anymore in this way. I believe in this way. So, like, I only have 24 hours in a day. I only have 7 days a week. So I can. So I'm not going to just freely give my time.
Ah, gotcha.
So it is, on some level, me thinking, is this the investment with my time that I want to make?
ROI, girl.
Right? And people think about that with money, but... And money,
energy
and money is important, but to me, energy and time are linked, and those are my two most valuable resources. Where am I going to put that? We think about it with our money, but do we think about it with our time? My answer is yes.
Thank you so much for you are such an inspiration to me. I so appreciate hearing your thoughts on that.
Well, and I appreciate talking to you about it too. Thank you for that, and like me voicing this, and then having you ask me to pause and then talking to me about it. Like, this is not a staged thing. Like, this is this is an actual example of
sitting on my sofa.
Yeah, of like why I really like talking to you, why it's so healing to me to talk to you, why in the first place I asked for you to do a podcast.
So everybody else could listen to us listening to each other.
Because I think that this is special, and this doesn't just happen. And I run into, like, I feel like Wile E. Coyote running into a fake Acme wall so often in my life, because I'm like, they're gonna listen, wham!
And then you slide down.
And then I slide down as they tell me about their day, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. This is one of those episodes where I think we're kind of sharing, and we don't have, we kind of sort of have answers, but not necessarily answers where, for me, where I can actually do something that's going to make things better in the world. But no, I take that back. Every time, I am convinced every time I do something from my authentic self, that's we were talking about this just recently. That's an opportunity for me to shine and shine a light for other people. So I would suspect with all of these people, even though they may not have the self-awareness to recognize that it's there somewhere, and maybe one day, maybe this time around, maybe 2 or 3 other times around, later, something will land for them, and they'll say, oh, and say, okay, that's not for me, or say, oh, I want some of that. Yes, please.
I love that, because there's definitely times where I interact with people and my response is, I want some of that. Yes, please. And then I go towards that person.
Yeah.
And I want to I want to shine who I am so that I attract the people who can
do. Yes. That's like the thing.
Like you.
That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There is one other thing that I'd like to bring up
sure.
and I kind of alluded to it with the attention economy. And as an extrovert, I am aware that I partake in this. Social media, I think, is like the act of sharing. Essentially, it's like, I had kale salad for lunch. It was beautiful. So if I post a picture of my kale salad, essentially what I'm doing is I'm screaming it into the void. I had kale salad. Look at my kale salad. It was plated beautifully. Right? Like, that's like what I'm sharing. And for me, and again, I'm not sure if this is like air quotes right or what. I have no idea. I enjoy social media. But I also am an extrovert. I love posting. I don't post my kale salads.
I did post my mango salad back at the start of COVID.
Well, I think that's great. And I love seeing other people's. That's just not what that's not what I choose. But I love sharing I just spent 5 days at the Las Vegas Circus Center, training, doing acro. I relish sharing. I did a blooper reel.
I loved it.
Me literally falling on my face. And then I also shared successes. And I love it. I love sharing it. I don't care if anybody sees it or not. I think it's awesome. I think I'm hilarious because because we fall.
I think you popped his glasses off.
I popped his glasses off. One time I landed pelvis to his face and it looked horrible. It was horrible for him. I think it's so funny and humbling, and I also enjoy it, and so I love sharing it. And I also think that I wonder if I and our culture can confuse the act of sharing with the act of being received.
Oh, well, yeah.
Just because that person, and then it translates to that person that I've been sharing about, who just word vomits at me, that is not actually really deeply connecting. And so I want to remember that my goal is to deeply connect with someone, human to human.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would suggest, because by virtue of the fact that they call it social media, but that's because it's not traditional media, right? That's where but it's not necessarily social. It can be,
yeah.
But it's not necessarily social. It's often sharing, and then just because I have 5,000 viewers or whatever, 5,000 followers or so, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually connecting with anything that I've said, right? So I don't think that that's what it's there for. So I'm not saying that we're supposed to be having deep, meaningful conversations on Instagram, and I wonder if that's kind of starting to leak into our conversational style, though.
Yes.
And so that's another part of the modern listening or lack of listening, is that we're all interconnected. All of the things that we do are interconnected, and they're going to influence each other. And so, the way we consume media, like my streaming and rewinding and putting on closed captioning, is going to influence the way I listen or participate in conversation with someone. And, shouting my kale salad will also condition the way I converse with someone. And I think the biggest part is that idea of awareness. And I keep going back to sitting and figuring out who I am and how I can be most authentic. And then that once you make that choice, once I make that choice, it might make it slightly easier to make other choices.
I love that you bring it back to that, because that is actually our first episode that we ever did.
With authenticity, that's right.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that was, I know that wasn't an accident, and the wisdom in that, it just keeps getting more and more highlighted for me that you suggested that as our first episode.
Yay.
It's also our number 1 most listened to episode. Data. I listen through data.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And you share that data with those who care to listen.
I do.
So, would you care to tell us a little something about our poem?
So this is a poem that I've come across a number of times in various spiritual and like therapeutic settings. And it's by Jessie Swick. And you and I both tried to find information about Jessie Swick, and we could only really find this poem and that person connected to this poem.
And the name of the poem is?
Please Just Listen.
When I ask you to listen to me and you start giving me advice, you have not done what I asked.
When I ask you to listen to me and you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way, you are trampling on my feelings.
When I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something to solve my problem, you have failed me, strange as that may seem.
Listen, all I ask is listen. Don't talk or do, just hear me. Advice is cheap, and I can do for myself. I am not helpless.
Maybe discouraged and faltering, but not helpless. When you do something that I can and need to do for myself, you contribute to my fear and inadequacy.
But when you accept as a simple fact, no matter how irrational, then I can stop trying to convince you and start about this business of understanding what's behind this irrational feeling.
And when that's clear, the answers are obvious and I don't need advice.
Irrational feelings make sense when we understand what's behind them.
Perhaps that's why prayer works, because God is mute and he doesn't because God is mute and he doesn't give advice or try to fix things. God just listens and lets you work it out for yourself.
So please listen and just hear me.
And if you want to talk, wait a minute for your turn and I will listen to you. Whew.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening with us as we listen to each other.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!